Okay, I'm going to entertain a motion for approval of the agenda with the addition of academic highlight Marshall Opportunity High School STEM program educator Jason Raditz, and the insertion of 2 and elite construction to fill the blanks of action item financial 8B and the removal of action financial 8C.
So moved. Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Members of the audience may address the board on agenda items only. Seeing none, we will move on to academic highlights. Class of 2019 MHS and ECEC graduates Taylor Blad and Parker Towell.
We're welcoming Kathy Dowd as the director of the program.
So thank you for having us. We were thinking, I think it's been about 3 years since we've talked with you all. And this year we have 6 more students finishing up in their 13th year at KCC, 3 of whom have associate's degrees, along with also receiving their high school diplomas officially, even though they've kind of been done there for a year. And 1 is going into the Navy, and then 2 are transferring to their 4-year schools with 55 credits. I think 2 were too short of their associate's degrees. So really I'm going to let the, the famous quote in psychology that we are the experts in our lives. So these women truly are the experts because they have lived early college for 3 years. And so they're just going to take a few minutes and tell you the highlights of their 11th, 12th, 13th grade years, why they decided to do early college, and what their career and educational path is. And then we've got some photos up too of the program. So first I'll have Taylor come on up.
So I'm Taylor. I don't know if you know me or not. I see some of you guys around the high school. But for all of you guys who don't know what the early college program is about, it's where people who are able to apply for this program, where you can go to community college through junior, senior, and then for additional 13th year to get an associate's degree or at least free college credits that can transfer. So you'd be a fool if you don't take it. So a highlight of the EAC program is that it started me off slowly. I'm not going to be part of that 60% drop-off rate for people who just go right into their 4-year schools, or any school for a matter. And I just liked how it just started me off slowly, and I knew where my problem areas were. I knew where I excelled in. I'm no longer procrastinating, which you do a lot in high school. And with starting off slowly, I'm able to go into my 4-year school with a lot of built-in confidence that I didn't have before, or initiative to go out and do stuff that I just didn't normally do in high school. And then since I started earlier on in high school, one huge benefit is that it got me ahead of my age group, per se, if you want to call it that, to where since I'm going into the medical field, I could honestly, right now, just take a gap year and do a lot of volunteering and focus on myself while also studying for the MCAT, which is huge for pre-med students. And so I'm thankful for that and how it was able to address my areas of need while also getting me competitive enough to where I can look appeasing to future med schools and residencies. More highlights that have built my confidence and got me ahead was volunteering. We did a lot of volunteering, and I just loved it. We helped out Albion, we cleaned up the highways, we helped kids, and from this, we also did a lot of job shadowing. They really encouraged job shadowing from all walks of life and what you thought you wanted to do. One class that I took was a CNA class, and I realized that I did not want to be a CNA or anything like a nurse at all, because that takes a special person to do that, or a mom. And then one huge perk was we got to tour the campuses one-on-one with other students, and we got more in depth than what you would normally get if you were to just walk in and want to see the campus, versus you got like the first view of everything. You got to see what the other students were like, and it's a huge blessing to have this program in my life. So,
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Parker Towell. I'm part of the 13th year as well. I'm graduating May 9th with my associate's degree before I even turn 19, which is an amazing accomplishment to me. I am so thankful to the early college program for everything they've done for me. When I entered, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I went from ER surgeon to cosmetology. It's a huge difference. But I learned through the classes and through talking to the professors, and I love these small classes because I can get to know the professors. The professors helped me learn that I love psychology. I didn't feel like I was learning. I felt like I was doing something I really, really wanted to do. And now I can. Because of the early college program, I learned a lot of skills that help me talk to people and help me communicate in ways that show them that I have a skill, show them that I have talent. And I learned a lot of team building and working with the volunteers and working with kids. I volunteered at a middle school in English class. I love English. But because of the early college, I saw opportunities I wouldn't have before. I went to SVSU and competed for their presidential scholarship and won. And I am very, very thankful for that. So not only do I have my associates paid for, but I also have my bachelor's degree paid for. And that would have not happened if it hadn't been for this program.
You want each quick talk, and then we're almost done, just about what your four-year school will be and your career path.
Okay, I'm going into psychology, and I don't really know where yet. There's a lot of parts that I enjoy, and I just have to go in a little bit deeper with the classes to figure that out, and I'm going to SVSU, Saginaw Valley State University.
for KCC, I'm graduating with the Associates of Science, and so I am chosen pre-med path would be either Northern in Marquette, Michigan, or to Grand Valley State, which they have really high-ranking pre-med programs for biochemistry.
Excellent. Thank you very much. How cool is that?
Great stuff. Any questions or anything?
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you guys so much for sharing your experience with early college. I think it's awesome for other students to be able to hear from students on their perspective of what they're getting from it. It was really awesome, and congratulations.
Great.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to Hughes House, Matt Lefebvre, Principal, Hughes Elementary.
Well, good evening, everyone. I am Matt Lefebvre, Principal at Hughes. We have a content-rich agenda tonight, so we're not going to take up too much of your time. But I'd like to present tonight something that goes along with the positive behavior intervention and support program that we all use in all of our buildings throughout the district. Now, at Hughes, we've had it longer than most of the other buildings. Matter of fact, it was first piloted at Hughes 8 years ago. So we kind of hit the ground running, and now we're always looking at ways to revise and adapt it. So with me tonight is Beth Brownell. She chairs our building PBIS committee, and we're both going to kind of go through the concept of houses and what it means for our students. And with the understanding that this is our first year doing them, and we're kind of kicking it off this year, and we hope to come back next year and present what it looks like in year two of as we implement it further in our program. This is all part, though, of our PBIS program. So, like I said, we've established a positive behavioral intervention support system, and this is our 8th year doing it. At Hughes, we call it the Fab Four. We want you to be respectful, responsible, safe, and kind. I say it on the announcements every morning. Every kid chants it, and they know it, and they can recite it at heart, I hope. That includes lessons we've developed ourselves for classrooms, hallways, restrooms, playgrounds, cafeteria, and assemblies. We teach them all the first week of school, then we revisit them about middle of the year. We revisit, especially after Christmas break. And we also, as a committee, a building committee, we revise and extend those lessons as we see fit. And we've kind of, I think by now, most of the lessons have been revised since year one, as our kids are learning and adapting in different ways. We have reward tickets we offer kids. A lot of the buildings do this. The reward tickets are for good behavior that we see throughout the building. Those tickets are put in a box in my office, and kids can come down and do announcements with me in the morning. And there also can be used, which you see later on, in assemblies to celebrate student success. So at those assemblies, we have rewards that we give kids, and we have one coming up on Friday. I have about 6 weeks of reward tickets in that box, and we do tickets. So one of the things I could tell you is, and if you have a elementary child, is they really like cheap stuff. I mean, it's like super awesome. You could buy them a book, and if you put a book in the assembly, they're not going to want it. But if you give them a little, trinket, they're going to want that even more. That doesn't mean we try not to establish a love of reading, which we do. But what we do with this assembly coming up is we do tickets. So like a half an hour in a teacher's chair is like massive to a first grader. So we can do fun things like that too and reward kids in that way. We develop common language that we use within the building. And we've developed songs, which you can go to our Facebook page and see us make fools of ourselves with the songs, and a chant that we're doing this year for the first time.
So through this, we've had common language in the individual classrooms. We have posters up in the classroom that talk about the Fab Four expectations that we have. We also have them out in the hallways so that it's kind of school-wide with that too. The specialist teachers also know that language and they use it in our building. We also use it in our grade level. There's things that we've established with PBIS and using the Fab Four within our grade levels. And then the school staff as well. Again, that common language is really important that, if I walk to the upper L hall and I use Gafuti, they all know that it means keep hands, feet, and other objects to yourself. And they like to say that word, so it's fun too. So we're just now trying to find a way that we could make it more holistic. Our school is divided, if you've ever been there. We do have a lower L hallway and an upper L hallway. And we don't really see each other that much. My son's a 5th grader, and I have to kind of catch him as he's leaving lunch to see him during the day. So we're trying to find a way that we could make it so that the whole school is together and we're working on PBIS together, and that's where the idea of houses came in.
Yeah, so we feel like the system as a whole is a strong system, but again, a kindergartner never sees a 5th grader, a 2nd grader never sees a 3rd grader for the most part because they play on different playgrounds and they're on opposite sides of the building. So this idea kind of we came up with this idea, we took it from, we're going to get to that in a minute, we took it from Ron Clark, but the idea was to promote a stronger sense of community. So Ron Clark was the person who came up with this idea of houses. And if you know Mr. Clark, he was a teacher in New York City. There was actually, I think, a movie made about him, if you've ever seen it. I don't think it was in theaters, but it was a made-for-TV movie with Matthew Perry in it. I remember there was a scene where he dared his kids to read, and if he did, he would drink a milk for every one he turned in a ticket, and it didn't end well for him. But anyway, so Mr. Clark then opened a school in Atlanta. He has his own academy in Atlanta. He's written a lot of books about motivation. And the one thing I will point out about, it's great to always give, no matter where you work, whether it's your staff, if you happen to be an administrator or any kind of building, it's good to read motivational material from time to time, because as I tell my friends who always say, oh, I can never be a teacher, I can never be a principal, I can't handle kids. I'm like, you're probably doing a lot of the same things as the job you have in terms of motivating people as we're doing in our schools. And he wrote a book about that called Move Your Bus, which I recommend. So this idea of houses he brought into his academy in Atlanta. And they're based on these concepts. To promote positive relationships and mentoring for students, promote positive relationships between faculty and students, give every student another caring adult, not just kids who we specify, kids who need the extra caring and mentoring, but all kids through this concept. Instill a sense of pride in being a Hughes student and a member of a house, and to boost character education. So this is how it works. So our students, we have about 315 kids at Hughes. We broke them into 6 groups. There are about 50 kids per group. with equal grade level representation. So about 3 to 4 teachers per group that support them. This includes our 13 homeroom teachers plus all the other teachers we have, special education, gym, art, tech, speech, our secretary, if we don't do assemblies at the end of the day, especially can be part of a group. Everybody, what's that?
Aides.
And our aides too, yeah. So everybody is part of one of these groups. And the concept is built on Latin character traits, and the ones on the right are the ones that are actually the pillars of character represented, taken from the Latin pillars of character. We kind of amended them slightly to kind of fit with our terminology here at Hughes. So you can see the terms on the left are the Latin phrases, and then the way they translate to what we're using them for. And the bulletin board that was in the first slide that is up as you walk into the school has a picture of these, has the name of the trait and then a picture of the kids in that house. And we keep adding to that as we do more activities as the year goes on. So again, we're trying to use the terminology that we already use every day. We also want to give kids a sense of a group that they belong to with a mix of all different varieties of kids and grade levels. And the goal is a sense of a pride, but also a sense of knowing the students in that house. Like kindergartners get a good kick out of knowing a 5th grader then. First graders get a good kick out of knowing a 4th grader, and so on. So you want to talk about a few of the activities that we did?
So as we said, we've been doing this for about 8 years, and the kids have kind of seen it, done that, and so we were looking for something new to motivate them and to remember PBIS, and so this is where the house idea came in. So we split the kids up into groups, and what we really wanted to focus on this year was team building. We wanted them to learn how to work and communicate with each other, how to solve a problem together, and really have the adults there to help and monitor, but basically let the kids figure it out themselves. So the picture on the right, it's kind of hard to see, but there are actually staff members who are putting stickers, they were farm animal stickers, on the student's head, and they were closing their eyes. And then when they opened their eyes, without talking, they had to find a way to get all of the cows together, all of the pigs together. And it was really neat to see how some of the older kids would start pairing up the younger kids. Or they would look at another one and say, oh, you two match. Well, then all of a sudden that kid realized, oh, I know what sticker's on my head. And they were doing it all by themselves, figuring this out, doing the problem solving, and they were having a lot of fun doing it. And so it was a great conversation about what did you do to solve the problem? How did you communicate with each other? So then we went to our next one. This was my group outside. We did what we called the lava lake. So the only thing that wouldn't burn up in the lava lake were these cardboard pieces. And they had to figure out there wasn't enough cardboard pieces to make it all the way across the lake. So they had to come up with a way of how they were going to get across the lake. And they discussed it. My team here, they had some of the 2 older girls who were going to, they got across, and then they realized, oh no, all the other kids are back over there. What are we going to do? So 2 of the 5th graders started going back and then setting them back up again. Another group, before they even started, realized, hey, we can rip these in half and then we'll have enough. So they just started ripping them up, and then were able to walk everybody across. So again, it was just the teachers kind of sitting there listening, making sure ideas were heard, but it really was the students who were coming up with these problem-solving skills.
So I had a parent tell me after we did this activity that her 3 kids came home and they decided the whole living room floor was lava and climbed over the furniture trying to avoid the lava lake. We said we did not encourage that idea, but well, what did you do at school today? Well, they're showing you, right? So our goal is this concept. We're going to become more established with this as next year, as we roll into next year. We're going to do a couple more activities this year. As we continue to do this, houses can earn points for showing behaviors that promote our Fab 4 at Hughes and support the idea of being respectful, responsible, safe, and kind. But also, we're going to look at doing team shirts, team colors, and giving them opportunities each month to meet and to learn more about each other. And that idea, again, of community, not just community among a grade level, or a hallway, but community among a whole building. The overall goal, and this is a big goal in today's, with our kids, especially in today's modern society we have, is the shift from extrinsic awards and gratification to intrinsic I can't talk, I'm running out of stamina up here. Satisfaction. Or in other words, we want kids to be intrinsically motivated, right? We talk about that all the time, and we find that a lot of kids today are not. So our goal is, through these characters that we're developing, is to eventually reach that point. And we feel like this concept will help with that. What questions do you have?
A child is in a certain house this year. What happens to that group the following year?
So before they were put into houses, we did kind of, if you know Harry Potter, we did kind of a sorting activity in each classroom where they had to pick out a color. And that's how they were divided up into the houses. They will stay in those houses until they graduate Hughes. So then the kindergartners will have the special ceremony of deciding what house they're in when they come each year. But everybody else will stay in those houses, stay with those staff members. So again, you have another person as you go along that you have a connection with.
So since like each house has its own, I can't remember what you called it, but like the Latin phrase that represents a certain thing. So do they have like activities that specifically deal with that particular motivation, I guess, or because it seemed like they're learning a lot of other things, which is good.
Yep. So what we have right now are their character traits that we have, so like kindness, trustworthiness. When we first meet, we do talk about what our house means and how we can display that. But right now, we've just kind of noticed through our student surveys, but also comments that we've had from students themselves, that there's a lot of issues with problem solving. That's something that they really haven't learned. Even issues we have out on the playground, a lot of times we realize come from not being able to solve a problem. So we wanted to hit that this year. We wanted to keep everything the same because when you introduce something new, you don't want to take a big jump forward. We want to just baby step into it, get the teachers comfortable with it because our school was the first one to adopt PBIS and we had them kind of jump into that and they did it willingly. And they've been great with it, but we just wanted to baby step into this one. So next year there is going to be more stuff that we're going to be doing as we meet monthly, but this year we just wanted to keep it for everybody the same.
So is it something that's discussed with the kids, like what those character traits are? Like, each house has a specific one, and this is what those are. So,
Yep.
like, everyone's talking about
Yep,
it.
absolutely. That's how we start
That's
each
cool.
meeting. And then when we are done, we also talk about how did we solve the problem? What went right? What went wrong? What would we have done differently? So again, we're just having those conversations and listening to everybody's ideas as well.
That sounds awesome.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to Marshall Opportunity High School STEM program, educator Jason Raditz.
Jason, you're leaving the building right when you're called ahead.
So, good evening. Do you mind if you know how much I don't like using the podium, so if I could talk and okay.
We got her.
So tonight I'd like to talk a little bit about our STEM program that we have at Marshall Opportunity High School. And I think the presentation from Hughes demonstrates something that is really intrinsic about 21st century learning and 21st century teaching. And that is, as teachers, we got to get out of the way of learning. And when I proposed this last year at the Curriculum Council, I had a couple eyes go, huh? Like, you're gonna let the kids decide what they're gonna do, what they're gonna learn, and which state standards you are going to accomplish. And I said, Yep or do. And so I had to find somebody who was crazy enough to go into this venture with me. And I think this is my second time as an academic highlight for Marshall Opportunity. And my history from Albion is pretty much sealed in fate that I'm a big proponent of project-based learning. I see a lot of faces from my Albion College class, my 258, my 359 students as well. And I preach this all the time that we as teachers need to guide and move forward. So last marking period, and again, I should say last quarter, because that's what we do at Opportunity. We have 4 quarters, 2 quarters equals a semester. Josh here and his team developed a prosthetic. Now, this prosthetic was not like a full-on, attach it to someone who needs it, but this is a proof of concept kind of prosthetic. And this prosthetic went to Detroit and came back, and it is right now in a lot of pieces. But that's okay, because we're going to re-engineer that. So what Josh is going to do, and we have probably the coolest part of this, is actually, yes, please, yep, is actually the articulating hand portion of the prosthetic. So when we went to McCall, we were part of the Student Technology Showcase. And we had a gentleman from Backyard Brains. Does anybody know that company? Okay. So they're a small, medium company out of Ann Arbor, and they deal with biomimetics, meaning that they put a sensor on your body, you think a thought, and it creates an action. And when I taught AP Bio back in, 2010, 2012, we have this black period after you take the AP test and the end of the marking or the end of the semester, and we have to decide, what are we going to do for 8 weeks? Well, I called up this company, and we made remote control cockroaches. So we literally had 8 Madagascar hissing cockroaches, we anesthetized them, we attached a device, and then into their central nervous system, and we remote controlled those cockroaches crawling up and down the hallway. Yeah, I'm that kind of science teacher. Josh's project caught the attention of that company, and their rep came over with an Arduino interface, and that morning, he had attached to our hand a mechanism where he could think and control and go like this, and our prosthetic hand was going back and forth. Okay? That is what our STEM program does. We have choreographed drones, we have developed different types of slime, we're embodying entrepreneurial and CTE training, life skills activities. It is something to see. And I hope that you guys and ladies that are in the audience have an opportunity to come to one of our final presentations, because that is how the kids get their credit or no credit, is that they make a final presentation, 5 to 7 minutes, where they articulate what they did, what they learned, how it relates to state standards, and it is up to you to decide whether or not they have given you enough information to warrant getting that math or science credit. And if they don't, it's okay, because they still get a fine arts credit. So it's time well spent for that 6 weeks. Josh's group had the unique pleasure of having not State Senator, U.S. Representative Debbie Dingell stopped by our booth for about 10 minutes and observed their prosthetic arm. We had another student who was working with our robotic arm. It was solving algebraic equations with lasers, which was kind of cool as well. If you want to, you can show the audience as well. So that type of experience just doesn't happen all the time every day in most alternative education programs. But it happens all the time every day at Marshall Opportunity High School. And that is something that you all should be really, really proud of, because it's something that is really, really, really special. We do have a short video. it's ready to play. So I'm not sure if the audio is attached or not. Awesome. So just a slight presentation. We've done so many projects, it's really difficult to get every one of them in. But you can see that we rely really heavily on utilizing 21st century technology and skills in a way that is unique to each student. So again, as I've said several times, every day we make miracles happen here at Marshall Opportunity High School. And this class is just one of the classes where miracles happen. Are there questions that you guys have for me?
So do you think this new curriculum and these classes worked out how you expected them to, or were there a lot of surprises about what worked and what didn't?
Well, there's always surprises when you let kids take the lead. And I think, well, I can have Mr. Adams talk a little bit about it too, as well.
There was definitely surprises, especially for me. This is my first year ever teaching this class with him. He's been doing some fashion of this within his science classes. Well, now it comes to the math, especially Algebra 2 side of it. You know, things aren't going to work out perfectly. Like, oh, this is going to go in and be the perfect project. Well, obviously that doesn't happen on any case for any level, but especially at the high school level. Some things I've revamped over just the 3 different quarters is just how to instruct and how to teach the core curriculum to them, and then for them to grasp that concept and be able to take that to a post-secondary education or to a CTE career opportunity. So things like that, makes a big difference.
One of the things that we also have employed from beginning to currently is that we have each of the groups consult an expert. So we had one group that was taking care of our salmon. And our salmon are, we're a hardy bunch up until spring break, where we had one fish decide that she had enough and killed all of her fish mates. So we have one really, really angry and tough salmon that we're going to be releasing into the wild. But before that, we were consulting with a variety of scientists. Our local expert, Nicole Wood, down at the Nature Center, and we also recruited a scientist, a whale sonographer, who happened to grow up in Ohio. Her name escapes me at the moment because, you know, it does. But we were able to use our Skype technology that we have here as well to telecommute and interview, and we plan on doing that as well. So just employing the rich technological background that we have within this building and within the district really has been beneficial to our kids.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
When are their final presentations?
Awesome question. I was hoping someone would ask that. June 5th, and I will send each and every single one of y'all an email about that date. And we have, oh my gosh, so many different presentations going on. Josh's group is going to revamp their prosthetic hand. Eventually, my dream is, and I have not been shy about this, is that I'd like to make this into a production for these prosthetic hands and send them down to Central America or somewhere where there is a large population of young amputees. The prosthetic, I think by my cost, by the amount of plastic and materials, was somewhere around just under $50 for the plastic so far. The biopneumatic interface is going to be somewhere around 140, but it's bulky. So that is our next design challenge, is to incorporate that. The gentleman from Backyard Brains is very, very passionate about developing something like this. He has been looking for a group of high schoolers or somebody with a bunch of 3D printers who want to do something along these lines. So this is a really, really cool opportunity, pardon the pun, that our students have not only now but in the future. And when you look at our population and what it comprises of, there's not a whole lot of connect between community and individual. And that's one of the ways that we, through this class, try to instill that connection between individual and community.
Great.
Anything else?
Good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda. I'm going to give us some background. Some of them are minutes and financials, but there's an employment, and then E and F, probably a little bit more on the background for us, Randy.
Sure. Let me just focus on E and F. E is the school resource officer resolution for the city of Marshall. F is the amendment regarding early college. In your packet, you'll see the resolution or the agreement between ourselves and Marshall Public Safety. This agreement was launched a number of years back. 2015 is when we received funding, basically 16 to 17 when we brought the school resource officer on board. We took this agreement directly out of the council from the ACLU that was written in 2009, a white paper. We vetted this as far as best practice and what our legal team from Truan, if you were going to have a resource officer, what you had to pay attention to and keep clear between pathways between the school resource officer and the building administration. The Civil Rights Commission has seen this. I've had conversations with Anthony from the Civil Rights, and he, while he loves what we do, he says, at least the agreement, he says with the school resource officer, you always have to be vigilant in making sure that you follow these agreements, that you don't get laxed about it. It's easy to do that in the heat of the moment. You would need to make sure that you pay attention to that. Our first year and a half of doing that worked out really well. Now, Chief Schwartz is ready to move forward with this. We have some money in our budget to at least implement it. Coming up for the coming year, it's part of our overall school safety plan. And there's a new COPS grant out, a federal grant for funding positions like this that Chief Schwartz and myself will be partnering with to write and submit. And that's coming up very quickly, actually. And then the other one is a resolution on a memorandum of understanding between the Kellogg Community College, Calhoun Intermediate School District, and Marshall Public Schools, specifically related to early college. Basically, you know, in the Michigan Merit Corps, there's a requirement that seniors take a fourth year of math credit. So it's a senior math. And it can be represented by a number of different options. This agreement says that as early college is applied, we're kicking that to the 13th year, considered to be their last year of high school, which technically it has to be. They have to take at least one credit towards their high school completion, their 13th year in high school. This is saying that we will push that senior math to the 13th year for early college. And it's primarily what our practice has been anyways. Any questions on that?
Can we entertain a motion?
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Thank you.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, discussion.
So I have a question about, well, maybe not really a question, but a comment about the resource officer. And unfortunately, I couldn't be at the last meeting, but I was glad to see that, you know, some people did bring up issues that came up when the resource officer came last time. So I was really thankful for that, you know, it was discussed, and it was discussed honestly, so I appreciate that. One of the things that I remember happening that's listed on here was the cultural competency piece. And it also goes into being in communication with children with disabilities and special needs. Those things kind of go hand in hand. So I am wondering, like, where are they getting that training from? Do we know that?
I do know within the 40 hours they're supposed to be touching that, and Chief Schwartz has been working really hard on making sure that's part of his agenda for his police department. I can't give you kind of specifics, but we can ask that of Mr. Schwartz or Chief Schwartz about that.
So I will make a suggestion of two agencies that I know that do this very well. One of them is the Center for Diversity and Inclusion with KCC, and the other one is called Truth and Titus, and both of them are out of Battle Creek. But they do very intensive training for a full week. And it's, like, I went through it myself, and obviously, you know, being a person of color, there's a lot of things that I know that someone who's not of color might not know. But there was so much that I became aware of going through that training with other people. And it was very, I mean, we still see each other. We meet like once a quarter. So there's an intensity to it, and there's also a continuation of it. So I would just, you know, throw that out there as an opportunity for them to, you know, make sure that they're getting everything that's needed.
Great. Let's have an opportunity to bring that up to them.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll start with Richard.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the report of the superintendent, special recognition.
Yeah, I got to promise the FFA that we're going to get through this quickly. I'd like to announce the new hires. Kimberly Hard fills the position of healthcare paraprofessional at Harrington Elementary. Ms. Hard attended Kellogg Community College, where she earned her associate's degree in nursing. Amanda Jacobus fills the position of paraprofessional at Harrington Elementary. Ms. Jacobus is a graduate of Williamston High School. Our retirements. I don't know. Hope's not here, is she? Hope? Stand up, Hope. Stand up and be recognized. Stay standing. I got to read this wonderful thing. Hope Anderson hired into Marshall Public Schools on December 3rd, 1993 to teach 7th grade language arts at Marshall Middle School. She has since remained at the middle school teaching 7th grade language arts in addition to teaching piano as an elective class for students in grades 7 and 8. Ms. Anderson has taken additional duties working with the student population in capacities of basketball coach, cross-country coach, facilitator of middle school intramural, spelling bee, knowledge master open, as well as serving as a middle school faculty council member. With a busy schedule, Ms. Anderson has always served to campaign with the United Way, working with Marshall staff to raise money for our communities. She is also known for her work in the organization of annual chili cook-off, way to go, Hope, during the fall football season. With more than 25 years of commitment and work with Marshall Public Schools, Ms. Anderson will retire from the district following the 2018-2019 school year. Congratulations. Julie Corrales, Julie Corrales hired into Marshall Public Schools on March 21st, 2001 to work as a cashier in the district's food service department. Ms. Corrales later transferred to the transportation department in 2009 to work as an aide on our school buses and transitioned into a bus driver position in 2012. Ms. Corrales retires from Marshall Public Schools with 17 years of service. Great. Kathy Dowd, did she leave? She did, didn't she? Okay. Kathy Dowd hired into Marshall Public Schools on August 13th, 1997 to serve as the counselor for Gordon Elementary and the Marshall Alternative High School. Prior to her permanent employment as a counselor, Ms. Dowd had been seen in our district in capacities of substitute counselor, GAP Reach After School Program Director, as well as a JV girls soccer coach. In 2016, Ms. Dowd was named the program coordinator for Eastern Calhoun Early College, where she will retire from the district with more than 12 years of dedication to the district and the students she has supported. Congratulations to Kathy. Did Miss Wendy make it? All right. Wendy Myers hired into Marshall Public Schools on July 1, 1998 to a secretarial position at Marshall Middle School. During the course of employment with Marshall Public Schools, Ms. Myers has maintained her post at the middle school, supporting our administrative team, counselors, athletics, just to name a few. Ms. Myers will retire from the district following the close of the 2018-19 school year with 21 years of hard work and dedication to the students, staff, and parents to transition through her office. Congratulations to Wendy Myers. Doug Regal. Doug Regal, are you here, Doug? I didn't see him. Doug Regal hired into Marshall Public Schools on August 18, 1993 as a physical education teacher for Madison, Hughes, and Sherman Elementary. Mr. Regal later transferred to Walters Elementary, where he is currently the physical education teacher for K-5 students. In addition to teaching, Mr. Regal has taken on extracurricular activities as a coach in our athletic program for girls and boys basketball, softball, tennis, and football. Mr. Regal will retire from his career with Marshall Public Schools with 26 years of service. Congratulations. Okay, can we have the FFA group come up? And while you're getting organized, Laura, I just want to say this to you and Mr. Raditz. You both have those salmon tanks, and I've been asking for 4 years now that I want walleye.
I know.
Okay, so try to get it to walleye
Yeah,
at
it's
some
in my
point.
head.
All right.
Next project.
I'm going to read a statement, and it might be redundant, but I want to really congratulate you guys on this process. Congratulations to the Marshall FFA demonstration team. They completed last month at Michigan FFA State Convention and were chosen as the state winners. These members put in countless hours preparing and practicing for months, while also making their way through district and regional contests to even earn a chance to compete at state. Their hard work paid off. Once at state, they had to compete 3 times against all the other regional winners, in the final time on the big stage at the Wharton Center in front of over 1,499 people and one superintendent. I got
There
to
might have
watch
been
it.
more.
Yeah, there might have been more. The team includes Harrison Haltow, Sarah Horton, Emma Rudicelli, and James Rudicelli. Congratulations, you guys, for representing us so well. You want to talk about the other state folks?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so as Dr. Davis said, my name is Laura Finch, and I'm serving as the agri-science teacher and the FFA advisor. In addition to talking a little bit about state, we did bring a couple other updates as well, and some pictures. So we do have some pictures to go through. Unfortunately, the kids that were on the state winning team were not able to make it today. 2 of them had prior engagements, and then 2 on their way here had a couple of incidents, so they didn't make it. But we do have 2 of our young, fine members that are here to represent and kind of update and give a little update on things. So.
Hello, my name is Austin Burkwalt. I'm a sophomore at Marshall Public High School and I am the Sentinel for the 2019-2020 Marshall FFA. I can't, sorry, can you help me pronounce that word?
Oh, Monsanto.
We had the Monsanto grant for $2,500, so that was nice. Currently, we have 86 members in the FFA. And out of that 86, we had 41 compete in the Ag Skills Contest, and 30 of them compete in the Leadership Contest. Last year's president was Harrison Hawtaw, who is now going to be the youth advisor, and Sarah Horton, who was I am very sorry.
It's okay.
Last year's vice president is now going to be the new president. Along with her is going to be Sam Kiesling and Lucas Setnary as the co-vice presidents, Emma Rudicelli as the secretary, James Rudicelli as the treasurer, and Abby Fass and Audrey Richardson as co-historians, along with myself as the sentinel.
Very good.
Hi, my name is Mara Tiernan, and I'm in 9th grade, and I go to Marshall High School. And I was recently elected as the 2019-2020 reporter of our chapter officer team. I also recently competed at the state leadership contest with my honeybee speech that I presented here a couple months ago, and I got 5th place in the state with my bee speech. And as they said, the state demonstration team got 1st place in the state. That was awesome. There was 1 state degree, 6 outstanding juniors, 5 state academic awards, and 5 state academic excellence awards. So lots of awards.
Very good.
So this year at the state convention, I was a delegate, and while I was there, it was a great experience. I got to see what the next state representatives for the FFA were wanting to do, and there were a few that got my attention by doing a little dance, and of course that made me choose them. Not sure if it was right, but it was entertaining. The tour of the Capitol, it was fun until a large group of people said, "Go state." I myself am a Michigan fan.
Okay, you're done.
No, he's all set. He's okay.
Yeah.
You got as much time as you need.
Thank you. Go Blue. And whenever I voted for the FFA officers, it was very quiet, and they got angry if you spoke. You had to stay quiet and listen to the people who were wanting to represent you, and yeah. But whenever it came to choosing the Region 1 representative, there was a male and a female. I can't remember their names for the life of me. And the female made a large mistake saying that she planned on changing nothing for the FFA, Region 1. And that, I believe, is what costed her votes, many of them. So, Ag Skills, like I said before, we had 41 members, 11 teams, 2 gold and 2 silver. Wish I could fully tell you what that means. Laura, can you help me out with that one?
The rankings are just how well they do. So the placings were all over the place. We had a 4th, 6th, 9th, a couple of teams that were 50th, which doesn't sound very pleasant, but when it's out of 200 teams, you know, there were, I think, I can't remember quite right, but I think there was about 4,000 members that actually did compete at these competitions. So we were very well represented. We were very excited. And the picture on the screen was actually the contest that these guys both competed in. And it's not the kids, but it's part of the contest. So
Yeah. So what we competed in was the milk quality and dairy dairy testing, and it was really fun. I did it last year, and there were a lot less members and people competing than there were this year. They had to move us to a larger building, and it was again different from last year. And I'm not sure if that's how it always is, but it was nice to finally do the California mastitis test, and which we didn't do last year, and to just go back and try the cheeses and then I didn't make the mistake of drinking the rancid milk. Yeah.
So we just have a couple last slides to go through, just kind of some upcoming things. We do have our spring plant sale that we've been doing for years and years, May 10th through the 11th, and the botany students as well as the FFA members have been very busy planting flowers, a lot of geraniums, because I don't know if anybody knows this. I taught at Homer for 12 years. Homer didn't really care much about geraniums, but I learned in my first year at Marshall that Marshall and Albion folks really like geraniums. So we're growing lots of geraniums, some petunias, and some other plants as well. That'll be at the fairgrounds where it always is held, because it's just not enough room with Walters Elementary right there by the greenhouse. It just creates a traffic issue. So the other thing, we'd like to invite everyone, and when I say everyone, I mean everyone in the room is actually invited, our awards banquet. Every year we do it in the spring. This year it's going to be on Friday, May 17th, and we're working on invitations, but if anybody and everybody would like to come, you're all invited. So. And then our summer activities, we do a lot of activities over the summer. We have 3 members that are gearing up to go to Washington, D.C. with the Washington Leadership Conference. We have fair, of course. A lot of kids show animals, do the fair booth. Very active in that, and a few competitions as well. We just want to thank you for your continued support. And are there any questions?
You have one completer this year as a senior?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And who is that?
Tegan Roberts.
Tegan Roberts.
Yep, yeah, she was in one of the pictures
Yes,
back there.
very good.
So.
Great.
Yep, yeah, and a completer, if you didn't know, means that they take the botany and zoology class. They have to pass with a C- or higher, and then they also get their state FFA degree. To get your state degree, there's a certain number of community service hours, money, and time spent with their SAE, which is their supervised agricultural experience. So for Tegan, she showed dairy starter calves at the fair, as well as doing lots of different community service activities. So we did have quite a few, Dr. Davis and I were talking about this the other day, we had quite a few others that completed botany and zoology, but didn't quite have enough hours or enough community service to get the state degree. So we are looking forward to next year, though, having a big group. We have a pretty big, as you guys all know, and the team that won the state demonstration team. So they're all juniors. So.
Excuse me, is there a next step for the ones who won state? Do they go to nationals, or how does that work?
Unfortunately, of the 11 leadership contests, only 6 go to nationals, okay. And we are in one of the doesn't go. So they did get to perform on the big stage at the Wharton Center, which was a huge honor, and that was kind of like their nationals. Okay. So, and they won it, and it was awesome, and it was pretty amazing. So, yeah.
Very cool. Any other questions?
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Next up is the Marshall High School Class of 2019 Top 10 and Departmental Awards. The Marshall Rotary Club and Marshall Exchange Club will hold their annual Top 10 Senior and Departmental Honor Awards luncheon on Monday, May 6th. That actually begins at 11:45 in the morning, goes till 1 o'clock. The awards program will be held at Marshall United Methodist Church. I have a list of these folks, and I could like quicken the pace of the thing and not read the names. Bill, would you like me to do that? Or would you?
I'm a little biased, but I'd like to get the names.
Top 10 seniors: Charlotte Conemaker, Megan DeSmet, Hannah Larson, Julius Lunin, Grace Lunger, Macy McClure, Madeline Russell, Megan Skopke, Lauren Terry, and Jack Vesmar are the top 10 awards winner. And the departmental recipients, English is Benjamin Culp, Applied Fine Arts is Jensen Jones, Music is Grace Lunger, World Language is Landon Morgan, Social Studies is Cassidy Porter, Mathematics is Megan Skopke, and Lauren Terry is the Science. So please try to make it on your schedule to come over to the United Methodist and watch them get their awards.
Dr. Davis, what time was that?
11:45.
Okay, thank you.
And the last thing on the agenda is, for me right now, is the Red Hawk Travelers European trip. You have a letter that was, it's always nice to get a letter out of the blue from somebody that really appreciates what you've done. And that letter was shared with me, so I had to pass it on to the board to let you guys see what that was. I don't really want to read the letter, but it just sparked me that, Kelly and Mike have supported this trip and done really hard work behind the scenes to make it happen for a number of kids. They spoke last year, but I wanted them, off the heels of this letter, to come and tell us a little bit more about their trip. Welcome.
Hi. Sorry, there we go. I'm Kelly Fitzpatrick. I'm the principal at Gordon Elementary.
Mike Fitzpatrick. I teach English at the high school.
And this was very much loaded before I walked up here. And then Taryn touched it. So I went. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about our program for those of you that don't know. Really quickly, our program mission is very much to build cultural competence within our school. So cultural competence is defined as living or being able to experience diversity within a culture. So cuisine, attire, communication, etc. So building the competence to exist within a culture. If you didn't know, this is something that you can share at your board meeting conventions. I'm sure that you have. Is that Marshall High School houses the largest international study tour program in the state of Michigan. At 237 travelers over the last 5 years that have visited 6 different countries. It's something that my husband and I are both very proud of. We have we stand up here taking all the credit for things, but we have a really large group of advocates at the high school through 12 teacher chaperones that participate in our tours. So, the number one question I get is how do you get 90 people through 4 foreign countries without losing anyone permanently? So our trips are 2 years in the making. We do 2 years in the making so we can do fundraisers, grant requests, scholarships, in preparation for that cultural competence piece so that we are the intelligent Americans that are traveling throughout Europe. One of the key components of the selection of our trip is that students could work 5 hours a week at a minimum wage job and pay for the trip. So 5 hours a week, minimum wage, they could pay for their own. And then obviously we help them with grants and fundraisers, et cetera. Last year, our highest fundraiser earned $2,900 through our service-oriented fundraisers. We don't sell candles or cookies, we're always working. So you see us at the concession stands, you see us raking leaves, you see us doing things like that because they're service-oriented. We use a 3-factor selection process for our trips. The trips must adhere to our curriculum of the schools, engage student interest, and then safety is of the utmost concern that we're traveling to locations that don't compromise safety. And then educational value. Like I said, curriculum application, cultural competence. The letter that you're going to read talks most about responsibility, citizenship, the idea that we can exist without earbuds in our ears, and that flexibility is fun. The number of times I look at students and say, we've got some free time. Do you want to go over here and check out this stuff with me? I don't really know what's going to be there, but let's just go. It's a way to kind of spread our wings a little bit. So we just returned from a 10-day tour, and I'll let my better half take over for that part.
So our trip we took this time is what we call our flagship itinerary. if we're on a 2-year cycle as our goal, we want to run the Dublin, London, Paris trip every other time, or somewhere in that neighborhood, because it's kind of the basis or the base trip that kids really, really enjoy. So we want everybody to get a chance to do that once through their eligible opportunity to travel with us. And we always talk about how Paris is the one that kids are like, oh, I really want to go to Paris, but then they end up loving Dublin and London even more than what they really expected. So, but we go every other spring break, and that's been a little bit moved around, just trying to avoid things like the Disney trip for the band and things. So, but we do go on the spring break. So, our trip this time, we explored Dublin, where we saw the Epic Museum, which had to do with Irish immigration, which is a big part of their history, of course, Irish heritage all over the world. We took a guided tour of St. Patrick's Cathedral, saw the pulpit that Jonathan Swift preached from as he was sort of thumbing his nose at royal authority. We did the lake tour in Glendalough, where we walk around the Irish countryside. We sampled local cuisine, including the picture there in the middle is fish pie, which was as exciting as it seems to the kids. I loved it, but they tried it. I give them credit for that. But so we saw some local cuisine, or what's popular in those locations. It may not always be English cuisine, but it perhaps is something that's very popular in London, if that makes sense. We visited Trinity College and saw the Book of the Kells, and also downtown Dublin, which is quite a scenic place, and the kids are always very surprised and really latch on to Dublin much more than they expected. From there, we traveled through Wales, only staying there overnight in a very small haunted hotel, and the ghost stole the hot water this time, so that was a glorious morning. But we end up in London, which is kind of the curricular center point of things, because we go through like Shakespeare's birthplace. We visit Anne Hathaway's cottage, where Shakespeare wooed his future wife, and there's a lot of we walk the streets and see the places to some degree that Shakespeare really saw, and those lucky travelers that chose to come with me on a little extra expedition saw Shakespeare's burial site as well. We saw the changing of the guard this time around, so we're very fortunate to make it there. We took a guided tour of London, as we do with all of our cities, a bus tour to kind of get the lay of the land and see the major sites. Westminster Abbey we got to visit and saw the tomb of Queen Elizabeth I. Parliament and the Big Ben, of course, was in scaffolding this time, unfortunately, so we didn't get a very good look at that. But we did travel on the London Eye, where it's the great big Ferris wheel looking thing that is a very popular tourist attraction. Saw the Globe Theatre. Some of us went and toured the Globe Theatre. We saw the Tower Bridge and the British Museum, where we see such important artifacts as the Rosetta Stone, which is an incredibly important piece of history. From there, we then end up in Paris, which is a very interesting place to be right now with demonstrations and things, but EF Tours is wonderful about that, and they knew right where there was a demonstration happening one of the days we were there, and we traveled to places outside of that. We were a good hour's walk from anything that was going on in that way, and so we got to see the Eiffel Tower, of course, the Louvre, and the Mona Lisa there. A group of us, one of those wonderful flexibility moments, somebody said, I'd really like to see the catacombs. And so I took a group of, I don't know, probably a third of the kids or half the kids over to see the catacombs, which there's a photo in there with some skulls that I took. It was a very super creepy place, but it was really neat. And then Notre Dame, of course, given the tragedy there, for us to be there a week before that, and these kids get a chance to be perhaps one of the last tour groups to go through. Many people visit every day, of course, but it was something at the high school this past week when the news broke that was happening. I can't tell you the amount of kids that were in my classroom, like distraught but thankful that they had the blessing to be able to be there shortly before the tragedy. So it was a sobering moment for them to realize how fleeting things can be and how happy they were to have been a part of that. So really wonderful locations and a wonderful company that does a nice job getting us to these places. And you can see our group picture up there by the pyramid in the middle of the Louvre.
They always say they hate group pictures, but we really love them. So as far as what's next, the board has already approved 2 trips. One is off schedule, and it's really based on student interest in curriculum with our AP World History class. And that's a June 2020 trip to Australia. So there are 12 individuals going on that trip. Our spring break 2021, so that is our rotating every other year trip, which only has about 6 spots out of the 42 left, is to Austria, Germany, and Switzerland, which is a little bit of World War II style trip where we will tour a concentration camp. So very happy that the school board endorses our passion for bringing cultural competence to the students at Marshall. So one of the questions I always get after we travel or before we travel is about safety. So I just want to make sure to help you understand or maybe give you some narrative about EF Tours. EF Tours is the largest student travel company in the world. They have 612 offices and 52,000 employees across the world. So, you know, we were very active in the conversation regarding Paris and the protests. Paris, even from our tour guides, Paris loves protest. If you look at Paris's history, they love to protest. That's what they do. That's, you know, what sparks revolution and change. So thankfully, we have great resources. We don't have to rely on the news that we receive in America to formulate our worldview and see the lens of safety. We have the State Department and professionals that handle that for us. So we were able to maintain, like Mike said, an hour distance within the city. But still, if you talk to the students that traveled, I don't think that they were really even aware that we, of course, had conversations about it so that they would know. We had emergency plans in place, but as far as feeling any type of protester presence, it was non-existent. So the last piece of information is a question I get from board members sometimes is how can I support or how can I help these trips? The number one thing you can do is write letters of support for scholarship or grant requests that may come to you if you know the student individually. And then ask students about their experience. So we have a Red Hawk Travelers Facebook page that we creepily update nonstop during our trip in order to inform parents in a proactive way about their travels. And if you just ask them, like, what did they learn? They love to sound like experts. They've learned a lot about all these places, and they love to share the facts that they have. And then, of course, encourage students to explore. So we adore our town, right? We adore Marshall, we adore Albion. But it's a great big world out there. And so just seeing, you know, and experiencing other people, whether it was cram-packed on the subway, you get really intimate in Parisian subways that are very full. But it's also a great place for conversation, and these kids love to talk. It was really great. We actually have some veteran Red Hawk Traveler people in the room. Anyway, so hopefully that letter kind of gives you just a hint at some of the advantages that our students at Marshall get to have because of programs like this, and which is supported by people like you. So.
Just really quickly, as one side note I wanted to mention is, as a parent, my son got to come with us, ninth grader, our son, and as a parent, like, I'm so grateful for the support of the school board and the trust that you, Dr. Davis, and all of you have put in us to take these kids, because his worldview was so altered and changed and broadened by the trip, and really that's you know, at least in part because of the trust you guys put in us. So thank you for that.
Great, thank you guys.
So that's all we have. I don't know if any more questions you have.
I just set Seth went on the trip, and he just had a fantastic time. And
Okay.
you guys do a fantastic job organizing it from beginning to end. And I highly recommend it if you get a chance to send your,
Thank you.
child along. So
It's like
very
making a
done.
pile of milk, you know? Working with 90 people, but hopefully he came back with tons of facts and stories about everything.
I don't think he's ever going to try fish pie again. But
No, but he probably tried it,
I
though,
think
right?
he tried it.
Yeah.
How big is the average group, and is it all students plus chaperones, or is it some parents go?
Okay, so in order to incorporate as many students as possible, we do allow a single parent to travel because different people have different, I call them leashes, right? Some people are a little bit more comfortable with distance, and some people are not, so we don't want to inhibit travel for anyone. So let's say a parent isn't as comfortable having their child that far, we allow a single, one parent if there's room. So our tours started out with one bus at 45, and then we had an encounter with a mother who helped us understand that being selective isn't fair. So she's like, I know Kelly Fitzpatrick loves kids, so what happened to Kelly Fitzpatrick that loves kids? Because 42 is not a big enough number. So then they went to 90. So that's a lot. So we, right now, we allow for 1 bus until we get 65, which puts us at 2 buses. So, I'd never like to limit options, but we are limited sometimes by resources, right? So we have to have so many people for a bus. So the biggest it could go is whatever this guy will let me, so he can stay married. And then
We essentially on 2 separate trips
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
So-
You're like, hey. Yeah. So that's a good question. So it started out small. And we originally started this because a few of the kids had complained that unless they were in band or choir, they didn't get to travel anywhere. And really, that was a very honest response. And I was like, that is not okay. It was just at the time, that was 6 years ago. So now we just wanted opportunity for someone maybe who, we have a lot of students who pay for the tours themselves. It is amazing the number of students who run a face painting booth at the market on Saturdays and pay for their trip that way, who they pick up a job at Zarzuela's bussing dishes for that 5 hours a week and pay for it themselves. So we really try to get students to be as involved as they want to be. So, yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of 2 questions. So one question is, how does a student get involved, like to begin finding out if they even want to do something like this?
Okay, so we go based off student interest for trips. So that has mostly been our team of 12 teachers getting a finger on the pulse of the school. So we throw out ideas. Where do you want to go? And they look through the catalogs and they're like, I want to go on this one. So then we hold an informational meeting. We try to get information out there to the middle school, to the high school, to Marlee, because by the time, as long as you're in 9th or 12th grade, you're able to go, and as long as you don't have significant disciplinary issues the year of our travel. So it's not a grade-based program. Both of us firmly agree that some kids don't play school well, and just because you have a C doesn't mean that cultural competence shouldn't be a lesson that you're learning. So we use social media a lot as a platform to get information out, but we also use the paper and things like that.
So where would I get information?
Okay,
Like
so-
if my kids are trying to act like they're not interested, but I think they should be.
Okay. That's all right. We hear
Spoken
that.
like a true mother.
Yeah. So we use Facebook mostly currently. So Red Hawk Travelers, we're an official club of Marshall High School. So if you look at their Facebook page, we're connected that way. And then you can always email Mr. Fitzpatrick, one of us, at the high school, or if you talk to any of the teachers, most of them know us. They know about the program. You can always email me. Yeah, we have posters.
We share a webpage with the itinerary and the prices and all that sort of stuff through the company as well. So
Yeah.
a lot of information you can look at and talk to us.
And most people that we talk to, I find it really important. I ask parents, or I'm sorry, I'm outing you, but I've asked them, I'm like, was this worth it? That's the number one question I ask the last day of the tour. Was this worth it? And they're like, yep, every time. So huh? No, we were stuck in don't listen to him. We were stuck in Newark for 12 hours. What's
It's been
that?
a good night in Newark.
We got to go to Rome for an extra day. They canceled our flights. And we went to Frankfurt for free. Anyway, in a layover. What? Okay, so anyway, yeah, you can always email us. Okay? All right, thank you.
We're on B, right? Diversity?
Yes, we are. Diversity Champion Awards presentation, Mr. and Dr. Harry Bonner, Kids at Hope Youth Development Center. Harry? Looks like Harry's delegating. Yes. These are the parents. All right.
All right. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Maurice Berry, and along with members of the directors of the parent, let me look at my paper, please. We are directors of the parenting programs for the Across Age Mentoring Youth Leadership Center, and we are here to present awards to members of the board. And if you would look in front of you or on your seat for an article printed by the Inquirer in 2013. about the challenges and diversity met with merging these two school systems. We are parents as well as directors of that program, and we are here with Mr. Bonner to present those awards today to Bill Desma. Is that right?
It's Matt.
Desmet. He's going to present the awards to recipients of this award. She's grabbing the stuff. He's going to pass these awards out at a later date, and the recipients of the awards are Kimberly Van Warmer, Secretary to the Superintendent, Becky Jones, Director of Business Operations, Lisa Uri, Director of Human Resources, sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Iyer.
Ira, thank you. Michael Wallbeck, Transportation Director, Teron Irwin, Director of Technology, and Brad Shedd, Facilities Director. We also have media awards for the Albion Recorder. We have Michelle Mueller present, along with John Hendler and April Kraft of the Chronicle. We have awards for them. Yep. These awards are for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Championship Awards for outstanding work by Albion board members and their outstanding work in covering those achievements. This is for Ms. Mueller. In 2013, the Battle Creek Inquirer wrote about excuse me, about the challenges faced between these communities to merge our education system. And through hard work and dedication by Marshall School Board members, it's not a perfect system, but it's starting to work. And we are proud parents of students of Marshall High School, and we appreciate the hard work and dedication by you guys. And that was the reason for this award. In 2016, we acknowledged board members with these awards. And a short time later, in 2017, we went to the middle school administrators and presented those awards. And now in 2019, we are presenting the same awards to high school faculty and staff, as well as students. And I'd like to call Mayola Dunklin to present the award to the NAACP Youth Council members.
Good evening.
Good evening.
At this time, I would like to present the awards to the NAACP Youth Council, President Vanessa Harvey, and Vice President Lawrence Hill.
Are they here?
Congratulations.
Nice job, guys. Yeah, look this way. Good job.
All right, thank you, guys. Also at this time, I would like to call Audrey Granger, Behavioral Interventionist of Marshall High School, to present the awards to the Marshall High School School Interact Club.
Good evening. Tonight I have the honor of awarding the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Champion Award to Victory Stovall and Cassie Porter.
What do we have next? Oh, okay. Say that. Oh, yeah, we have accepting awards for the Marshall High School staff is acting principal Greg Tetro.
Tetro. Is Greg here?
Tetro.
Yep. There you go, Greg.
And these awards are awarded to Greg Tetro, Assistant Principal, Acting Principal, Dan Cottons, Athletic Director, Kim Robson, Counselor, Michelle Winchell, and Audrey Granger, behavioral interventionists. And that's the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Championship Award. I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Bonner? Mr. Bonner? Mr. Bonner? Mr. Bonner? Bueller? Bueller?
I think everybody that's been around understands in 2012 we closed the schools. High school come to, Alvin High School to come to Marshall schools. And from 2012, and you see the news article till now, and if you can read the article, you can see all the things that was predicted potentially to happen, and not that it has been 100% smooth, but the efforts that have been made by staff and board members and students and parents to make sure that this is a quality experience for our students. The wars that were started in 2016 was to start the pathway of equity, diversity, and being inclusiveness. The last presentation of culture competency was great. But when you look at the diversity of our African American community and students, a lot of them will want to go to Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit, and some of those other places. So I was just telling the parents, oh, here, you know what? Here's a job for you. Let's work on some of that, along with NAACP, to continue to make sure that our community and our schools are as diverse. And I said this before, and I work hard at this, along with Randy and others, to make Marshall a model school district. When we started in 2012 or 13, the committee was working on trying to figure out regional education, not just local education, because the education field was changing and continues to change. So we want, and I believe that we can, make Marshall district a model educational district, okay? But in order to do that, parents, students, communities got to be committed to that. So this is what the Diversity Awards are. We are invested in the future, along with your help, and we will entertain any questions. The parents will entertain questions, but these guys got children in the district, along with others, and are willing to make that commitment, and that's what this journey is all about. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Aaron.
We're on leadership team reports.
Yep. So in your package, you have the leadership team reports. Does anyone have any comments? Anything in particular you want to bring up?
Anybody have anything? We appreciate them.
Yep, great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, move on to discussion. A is school promotional strategies. Ryan Traver of Bluefish Consulting.
Hey, Ryan, come on up.
One comment on the salmon.
Yeah?
I fish salmon, so I hope those salmon, that one salmon, that killer salmon, is not released in the Pierre Marquette River, 'cause that's where I fish. I don't need it killing all the other ones. So, all right. So I'm here to present the kind of a proposed logo hierarchy. We did an audit of all the logos that are being used across the district, and we're just going to show you really quick kind of what we found. So the biggest concerning thing we have found with our audit is at the elementary level. Every elementary school within the district was using a different Red Hawk, different version of their own logo, really. And important thing with branding is to have some brand consistency, and we're trying to mold students into becoming middle school students and the high school students. We want them all thinking about the same Red Hawk. We want parents thinking about the same Red Hawk. So when they see any marketing materials out on one elementary school versus another, there's no confusion that it is Marshall Public Schools. So this is kind of what we're seeing with the current structure. And then also on a district level, the board and the district level is using a couple different marks. They're using the Red Hawk logo that you see at the high school, and they're also using the more historic Marshall School logo with the oak tree. This is what we are proposing. So just using one logo at the district level, which also mimics what would be used at the high schools, both the Marshall High School and Marshall Opportunity High School and the middle school. And then on the elementary level, we kind of have a couple different options that are Marshall branded, and I'll show you those again on a future page. But it would be the Block M, the Hawk Head, one of those two options pulled from the main primary logo. And then at a younger level, kindergarten readiness and the Shamrock Center, this was an illustrated version of the Red Hawk that we proposed to the principals group as an elementary logo idea, and it was kind of pushed back at us with some good feedback. It didn't resonate with the third, fourth graders, so instead we heard from Shamrock Center and the kindergartens that they really like it. So we're proposing that this be adopted as the kindergarten readiness, the early childhood kids at Shamrock Center, Albion and Marshall. And then there's athletics. We found a lot of different M's, different hawk heads, different versions of logos being used for athletics. And there's actually another one I found in the last few weeks that's not up here that is becoming more and more popular. So again, same issue with the at the school level for branding within athletics. It's just important to have kind of a consistent birds, consistent Red Hawk to be used because you're branding the district wherever you use the logos. So what we're proposing is with all athletics and clubs to use one of these three marks. So either the primary logo that you would see for the high school and middle school, that Block M that we were proposing for the elementary school, or just the Red Hawk. So the elementary schools could, with using that Block M and that Red Hawk head, get them excited about high school athletics and clubs as well, because these are the logos that they'll see their older peers wearing and using. There was some discussion with the athletic director and athletic departments about fonts, and we have fine type on the bottom of this about fonts on uniforms. Don't need to be standardized so that uniforms, your jerseys, your shorts, your apparel, just for team camaraderie, that can have any different font you want. But when you're using logo marks, it should go back to what we're proposing here. Hard to see on the screen, but this is just one rendering of what that Red Hawk head could look on a football helmet, and then comparing it to what they've been using in the past few years with a different hawk head. They call it the Angry Hawk. And these are not anything that's been approved by the football team, which is kind of showing you conceptually what that hawk head could look like. Here again, just the hawk head. Stylized the hawk head just a little differently. Pulled it out from the main logo, added a gray beak. So that's kind of a new little addition to that hawk head. And then just different variations of how the different elementary schools might use any of those marks. The Block M or the hawk head could be stacked, could be side by side, and just a lot of different ways they could use it as their own. Same with clubs. So we just showed some examples for robotics here, also athletics again, soccer. So they can make it their own, staying within the parameters of what we're proposing. Some more examples. And then there's the other school-approved groups, the Teachers Association and Athletic Boosters. This is what they're currently using, and we're not making any recommendations here. We're just showing as an example that really the primary Red Hawk head is being used within each other groups, and that's what we like to see, and not introducing their own new Hawk heads. Second part of the presentation is to show the concepts that we've created for the fall recruitment campaign for the district.
Can we hold
Yes.
off for a second? Can we ask any questions about the logos that you just went through?
Please do.
So one of the things I thought we should explain is that this does not limit a team from getting those casual T-shirts or warm-up T-shirts or whatever that might be around a particular culture, to particular energy that they have or whatever, and that can be left up to the coaches or the parents with that. But official uniforms is where these logos come into play.
Correct, yeah. So, and I made the comment about fonts, that's more on official uniforms,
Yeah,
but
okay.
there's still the camaraderie of teams. And when I was in high school, our soccer team, we called ourselves the Bulldogs. I was a Marshall student, and but we had Bulldog T-shirts. It was just part of our camaraderie. Took us to the state championship. We got behind it. Wasn't anything we sold, in the bookstore or anything, but it was just our little thing. So our uniform, when we took off those T-shirts, we were still Marshall. So
Yeah.
So yeah, we would
Good.
support that.
All right.
So part of, if we move forward to one logo, then obviously we'll have some sports teams that have, well, would it be like a phased-in approach over years? We won't be able to necessarily buy all new uniforms for all the sports teams right away, correct?
Yeah, that's how I would see it. Just with anything, stationary, uniforms, anything, you kind of phase it out over time to make the right budget decision for you.
Yep.
Any other questions on logos?
I have one. So who ultimately is making this decision? Like, are we making this decision, or are we like asking people to vote on it, or how does that work?
Well, the process went through with Ryan doing the footwork with all of the leadership team, and us having dialogues with the leadership team as well as athletics, coming back with this agreement, and this is a recommendation proposed back to the board. So if you guys are comfortable with that, we'd like to move forward with it.
We're not taking action tonight. Tonight's just discussion.
This is
correct?
just discussion here.
So we would take action in next month or something?
Yeah, we can put it on the 6th, actually. This is not something you have to sit on for 30 days.
Okay. So fall recruitment. We've heard a ton of great stories tonight about what you're currently doing with your current students, and it's pretty awesome. So the fall recruitment is trying to reach beyond your current students to bring more students to Marshall Public Schools to experience the things that you can experience here. So we have presented concepts to the superintendent, and he came back with some feedback. So what we're showing here is a proposed recruitment campaign for elementary, and then a second one for secondary. So the first set you'll see here is the elementary campaign. And I'm just going to show you a whole bunch of different mediums. We have social media, some digital ads, some outdoor, direct mail, just to give you a sense of how it could look in different mediums. So here is one for social media. And this campaign, we're using these big, large, bold words like United We Learned, a lot of things with diversity, whether within race and education and learning. So we're trying to pull those out and make them prevalent. And this campaign, again, uses real photography, real images. So we're always going to show kids in this campaign for the elementary, where we're taking a different approach for secondary. So United We Learn, with the action being enroll now for fall. This is social media or digital, so it'll be a click-through, and it would take them to your website. Again, this is just more digital and showing how some digital ads, they can rotate through like a GIF, and this is just three phases of that digital ad, with the third one being the action enroll now for fall. This is a sample of a direct mail piece. The headline on the cover is all-inclusive education, enroll now for fall. And then the copy hasn't been written for the backside or the inside yet, but that subhead just says caring staff and teacher providing pathways to success for all students. Nurturing early birds. We'll play on words, Red Hawk and early birds. This is a sample of an outdoor billboard. Embracing early education. And back to that logo hierarchy, if that's approved, we would be updating these for elementary to use a different logo. Empowering young minds. Inspiring young minds. So we're just showing a lot of different examples. Not necessarily we'd have to use all of these, we're just showing you the breadth of the campaign and how it can be used in multiple different mediums and different headlines, and keep the campaign fresh as you put out more ads or more social media posts or whatnot. For secondary, little different look and feel. So we're using this more of a red, bold campaign, big words, using that hawk head prominently. More play on words again with flying, Red Hawk. So high expectations. Enroll now for fall. Enroll them for takeoff. That really works district-wide. That's not a headline that has to be only for secondary. That could be easily used as elementary. But again, with the two campaigns using the same core branding, they're still working together and not against each other. Just a different color variation of that. Pulled some statistics from your reports, including this one, is 75% college enrollment, 97.5% high school graduation rate, 17% higher than state average. So there's a lot of good stats you guys have that with your schools, with their proficiencies, and we would want to pull those out whenever we can and use them in our print advertising, direct mail, or in this case, outdoor. Nurturing early birds. Enroll now for fall, kindergarten through 12. Passport to higher learning. Just more billboard examples. Where students take flight. And this is social media. Again, same headline, just repurposing and resizing. It's another one of those animated digital ads. Really like digital. It allows us to track the effectiveness. We know how many impressions, we know how many people clicked, we know how many people went to your website from seeing the ad. Much more measurable than a lot of traditional. Still like traditional, just more measurable. It's more and more just different variations of digital. And then another direct mail sample using that headline, 97.5% high school graduation rate, enroll them for takeoff. A little different creative version, but packed with opportunities. Raising excellence. And this one, another direct mail piece. We kind of like this as your closing statement on a lot of the different campaigns. So you should see all these messages, and in the end, the result we want them is to upgrade. It's time to upgrade. Time to enroll at Marshall Public Schools. The highest student performance in the area. So that completes my presentation. Any questions on those concepts?
Now, the steps on these for Randy, this is you and the administrators will go through these and you'll move forward with the campaign, or are you looking for us to be involved with that at all?
Actually, we've already gone through some of these things. Ryan's putting together a campaign that we want to run. There's a Harrington campaign for recruitment for kindergarten that's going to be very specific. There's going to be a general campaign for enrollment, and then a broader campaign for the district for enrollment. When those go, we have one for May, June, or the kindergarten roundup is May, June.
Yes, the kindergarten roundup stuff's already out.
Yeah.
So the Harrington campaign's out. There's
Right.
been direct mail. There's an ad in the Bohm Theater. There's a print ad that's been circulating.
And then high school recruitment is
This campaign was June, July.
June, July.
Mhm.
Okay.
Perfect. Great. Any questions?
I guess the only thing as I always love your work, I love all of it.
Can you speak into the mic?
Absolutely. I love all your work, Ryan, and it's fantastic, and I appreciate it very much. I think we have to do this, and I mean, part of what, I would like to have an explanation at some point that just, maybe there's a press release or something to talk to the community about why this is essential, because what I've seen is when we start to do this, people do the wasting money on billboards, and to me, it's a really easy explanation. We're attracting kids on a per-pupil basis to our district, and we have to do this. Everybody around us is doing it. Springport still puts up a billboard in the fall on 994 that says, come to Springport to school. Everybody's doing it. We didn't start it. We've got to respond, I think, and we've got a whole lot to offer. We've got to tell people the story. So 100% support. I'm really happy to see this. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you, yeah. And living in a world with school of choice, you kind of have to do the marketing piece. We wish we didn't have to.
Yeah, we didn't create the world. So
we didn't create the world, right? So, yeah.
I think as Robert Giles speaks about this from the Albion perspective with Harrington, is that we can continue to recruit and get the word out about multiple pathways to parents with young children so they can see that pathway for the next 12 to 13 years. And we can expect that we're going to get a lot of kids coming in with that. And we've already proven that. We've increased our enrollment by 40 from last year to this year. So there are some kids, though, that have already school choiced away and have for a long time. And once they get hooked into the school that they've choiced into and are happy with it, then they normally stay because they're building their peer sets and so forth. They rarely move after that. Unless there's some crisis or something that pushes them that way, or parents decide to come back and support our schools. So our recruitment angle is going to be a lot more heavily tinted towards the kindergarten through fifth. But there are a lot of kids out there that are learning about what we're doing with our new pathway in early college for manufacturing careers and those types of things where kids are going to go, well, wait a second. If they've got this is where I want to be. Early college, listening to the young people, as Shauna pointed out, hearing from the kids to talk about that, get the message out. There are going to be a lot of kids interested in coming forward to participate in that and to fast track themselves into college or into career choices. So,
yeah, I mean, we had tonight, I don't know what, 7 or 8 or 9 people that all would be fantastic on video to testify about their different experiences.
Right.
And some great examples tonight.
Okay. Any other questions?
So, okay, I guess I am like devil's advocate tonight. So I love it. Like, I really love the upgrade one, just that's my thought. And then I really liked the early birds for the little kids. Like, that play on words was really cute. The only thing I would say is when those decisions are being made, just be cautious and aware of the blast of diversity. Because a lot of times when people see that, I'm not going to say me, I'm not speaking for the whole, African American community, but I'm just saying in general, when we see like that blast, lots of people will just be like, if you have to blast it, you're not doing it. But it's also important to show it, because if you see everything that's all, one race, then you're looking at it like, well, where do I fit in, whoever I is, right? So I'm just saying be cognizant of that when you're doing it, it needs to be done one way or another. Everyone's not going to be happy no matter how it's done, but just be aware of that look when you're deciding on what that part's going to play.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
all right, good job.
Okay, we'll move on to discussion item B, middle school science curriculum proposal.
Don? I see Taryn's working overtime.
Good.
So I'm really excited to talk to you about this today. This is actually the culmination of 2 years of work by the middle school science teachers who've been meeting for an hour, hour and a half, once a month to try to come up with the best possible science curriculum for 6th through 8th graders. Going back just a little bit in time, as many of you may know, the state adopted new science standards about 10 years ago or so, and they aligned to the national science standards, what we call the next generation science standards, and they changed everything in science instruction K-12. And as soon as, and if we can get the graphic up, I'll show that to you, and if we can't, that's okay too. But the reason that the change in the science instruction is so different, the science standards are so different and so challenging in schools, and this is true in schools all across Michigan, is that it wasn't just a change in the science standards themselves. They didn't just tell us, now you need to teach this sort of life science in 8th grade and this sort of earth science in 7th grade. They did change that, but they also said, we want you to change this, the way you teach it here. And then we also want you to align them in these particular ways. And this is the graphic I wanted to show you. Oh, and it's coming across really funky. But they call it three-dimensional learning. So now there's 3 different ways, 3 different parts to the standards. So these core ideas, these disciplinary core ideas, are the main standards in earth science and physical science and things like that. But then they have these 2 other things, the cross-cutting concepts, for example, which are the things that go between all the different standards, such as cause and effect. So those need to be taught no matter what type of science you're teaching. And then there's the practices. So they literally come out and say, you must teach students to do science in this way. So whereas in English and math, for example, they only changed the standards themselves and told us what we need to teach different. In science, they said, you must also teach them in this way. And this has been a struggle, like I said, all across Michigan and all across the country in adopting these new standards, because our science teachers not only had to learn the new standards, but learn how to teach them differently. So that's the background. So when I came 2 years ago and started talking to our middle school science teachers, and we talked about the struggles they've had and how are we going to change how we do in order to give our middle school science students the best possible education. Do we work on standards ourselves? And we work with the middle school kits that we've been using. Where do we go? To make a long story short, we ended up deciding the only way that we could possibly integrate absolutely everything that's in these challenging standards is by adopting an entirely new curriculum. So that's what we've been doing for the past 2 years. This year, we actually narrowed it down to 10 different curriculums, and we looked at all of them individually. We ultimately brought in 7 different vendors
and met with them and had them give presentations to us. We narrowed that down to 2 who ended up giving us long and intensive presentations that put us in the role of students. So we actually went through their classes, and then we were put in the role of teachers, and so we actually designed mini units and learned how to actually present to fictional students. And of the 2, we ended up choosing one of those, which I handed out the presentation, the materials to you right there. We chose Elevate Science, which is a product by Pearson. This is a brand new product, which actually most of the products we chose are new because the next generation standards, actually 10 years really isn't that long because it takes a long time for new products to come into play. Most of them were fairly new, to be honest. Covers all of those 3 dimensions of learning, and they do them very well and in very, very clever and interesting ways. They're all aligned, then they're student focused. So what they do is they have students walk through the work of a scientist. They start off every single unit with an inquiry into some sort of what they call phenomenon. So they'll present them with a problem, basically. Like they'll say, this pond suddenly, over 1 month, got choked with all kinds of algae, and we don't know why. And then they let the kids try and figure it out. They don't really give them much to go on, but they have to try to investigate. They ask questions. They come up with different ideas. And then they say, well, you might be right. And they give presentations. And then they stop. And then they start teaching the teachers teach the different aspects of the unit during the quest. They don't know if they're right or wrong until the very end of the unit, in which they have to give some kind of culminating project. It might be a presentation, or they might have to come up with an environmentally sound solution in order to solve the problem, which means they know what the reason was in order to fix it. Or they might have to write a newspaper article. It's just one example. Another unit that I saw was you're a designer of a roller coaster amusement park company, and you have to create a bumper car. And then could create one right now. And will it withstand the impact? And then they try to do it, and they don't know if they're right or wrong. And then as the unit goes on, they learn all about forces and impact and physics. And then by the end, they have to actually create a miniature of the car. And then they learn if they've done it right by crashing them together. Who doesn't like that? So these are how the units work. You can see there's actually no textbook. What we have right there is the student workbook, which involves all of the readings that are integrated into it, all the investigations, and all of the labs that are included as well. So it's all a reproducible that the students will use. The other one that looks like a textbook is actually the teacher's edition. And there are additional supplementals, such as the hands-on materials that are in a kit form that all the teachers actually will get, and we replenish year after year. There's also a complete set of assessments that are wonderful, and they involve every sort of assessment that we would want for our students. They're formative assessment, they're summative assessments, and they're also online and perfectly match the sort of M-STEP science assessments that will start being used next year. Remember, this year is the second and final year of the pilot for the state-mandated science assessments. Starting next year, we are going to be assessed on these. So we'll be following that right along, and we made sure to, as we looked at them, see if they coordinated with those 2 types of assessments, and they do. Finally, there's a digital suite that goes along with the product that includes videos, there's virtual labs that'll show things. For example, it'll allow students to play with sound waves, it'll allow them to do virtual dissections and things like that, and all kinds of very interesting, exclusive, different pieces that you can only get if you buy the product. There are also, I should add that we're not getting pieces to this. It's a rather large product. They do include other elements, such as if at a later time we decide that we'd like to expand and add like engineering pieces
They, of course, are very happy to sell us other things like other kits that we can include, like a STEM lab or a maker space, or even during classes. I really liked this. There's an engineering piece that goes right along with the book that you can have the kids stop and for a week, for example, work on creating different things like fans and things like that. And it's neat, but we just didn't feel confident in the beginning doing that because we don't know if we'll be able to get through it right away. But it's nice to know that that's out there. So that's it. Can I answer any questions for you?
So the course 1, 2, and 3, course 1 is 6th grade, course 2 is 7th grade, course 3 is 8th grade?
Yes, and the reason they label them course 1, 2, and 3 is because with Next Generation Science, all courses are integrated. So there's no longer 6th grade science is physical science, 7th grade science is life science. There's units for each within.
And then each of the students would have that workbook?
Yep, so each year they would get that workbook, work through it through the year.
Any other questions?
I just want to mention the connection with mathematics and the science.
Absolutely, mathematics and ELA.
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A number of standards are represented in here for the math standards for this age group, right?
Yes, math and ELA, both.
Were anybody from the math departments looking at this as well?
We did not share that with them, but the company did give us data to prove that both scores went up when you used the products.
I can imagine because it's real practical application and very, very deep concepts, mathematical concepts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say, oops, sorry. I'll say that I like the idea when I was reading through it of like hands-on. So I looked at one of the pamphlets. If I read it correctly, it said that you have hands-on assessments available. I think that is going to be awesome for so many kids, you know, that might not do well just taking a standard test. That's an awesome thing.
Yeah, that's the idea of the quests that I told you about, that it starts with the phenomenon, then it goes all the way through to the end. That ultimately at the end of every unit is a hands-on assessment, and then within every lab is intended to be. The labs aren't what we probably remember the labs were, where you go and then they give you a worksheet and you do the lab. They're not that way anymore.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, like, especially with just being able to problem solve, like the stuff that they're going to learn in these classes, even if they don't like science, they're going to take those lessons for the rest of their life. Like, that's awesome.
That's the hope.
Anything else? So we'll follow, this will be available for people to review for the next 30 days, and then we will actually take action at our second meeting in May, correct? Will that give us 30 days?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Going to move on to C, which is bus purchase.
Every year we lease buses for MYCA, and those are brand new buses. And typically when they start to come off lease, since we've owned and maintained those lease buses, we purchase them as a district. And so we have a bus coming off lease for cycle, so we'll be bringing that back to the board next month. And it's a 2016 77 passenger bus for the selling price of $57,000.
Any questions? We do that to just, instead of having to do a bunch of them at one time, we try to do one or two every year.
Yeah, it's really been helping to maintain the fleet, so.
Great. Any questions? Okay.
All
Move
right.
on to D, commencement honor recognitions.
I gave you a handout, one page that starts with honoring military veterans. Bill DeSmet as board president, myself and Scott Hutchins met to talk about commencement and really about commencement regalia and representing student activities and so forth. And we decided to open this up. This is a recommendation to the board. If you have any significant concerns about it, please let us know in this conversation, because we are moving fast and furious to get commencement wrapped up and ready to go. With our recent experience from last year in commencement, we wanted to make sure that we did intentional work with our veterans. So we have some graduates that have already enlisted or will enlist in the military. We want to make sure that the first thing we do, which is what we do at the Youth Challenge and Job Challenge programs, is ask those graduates that have enlisted and committed themselves to the country to stand up and be recognized for that. So we're going to ask our graduates to stand up that have done that, and then we're going to ask members in the audience who are veterans from the military to stand up as well and be recognized. As they continue to stand, then we're going to ask the rest of us to join them as we do the Star Spangled Banner and the National Anthem, and or the National Anthem, okay? So that's going to be a little change in our program. We also talked about commencement regalia. Historically, the stole, I used to call it sash, but it's a stole. The stole that we only have historically authorized is the stole of the National Honor Society. If you can imagine, a number of groups that we have actually have stoles that represent their group as well, and we're trying to get away from having multiple stoles over a gown. So what we decided to do was to go to cords and expand the use of cords for our graduates. So we're suggesting that aside from the National Honor Society stole, we're allowing cords. We've always done highest honors, high honors, and honors for graduating seniors. That's going to continue. We are now going to allow the Battle Creek Area Math Science Center graduates to also wear their cords for the Math Science Center. And they will have already gone through their own ceremony, which is coming up pretty soon, by the way. And I go to, but they'll be able to bring those cords over and wear them as they graduate in commencement with us. The FFA completer, the one completer that we have, she'll have a cord because there is a cord for FFA that they'll be able to acknowledge the completion. The link completers is a suggestion that they have cords, and I'll tell you that in a second. Associate's degrees, anyone earning an associate's degree through dual enrollment or through early college may wear the cord of their university or the college that they received their associate's degree from. Military basic training completer, we're not going to have one this year, but should we ever have one again, there's a recognition that a cord is the way that they can recognize their military service. And there are cords associated with each of the branch. And then early college completers. Early college students get an opportunity to say they want to walk with their cohort. That means they're basically 1 year away from graduating, but they're walking with their cohort so they can celebrate that experience. Those students can also choose not to walk with their cohorts and go through commencement their 13th year. If they so choose, they can wear a cord representing completion for that. Cords all represent academic-based completion or termination of a particular event or a particular achievement. And then we're talking about official pins. This came up last year with Eagle Scout wanting to wear their pin on their gown. We've decided that there's no problem with that, that we'd like to open that up, and in fact open that up across the board, and have any officially sanctioned pin appropriately placed on the gown recognizing an accomplishment during the four-year high school tenure, club, activity, extra, or co-curricular activities. So for example, the NAACP, if there's an official pin, the senior members that are graduating can use that pin to put on their gown and recognize and represent their affiliation. And then what we're going to do aside from that is to do a new program, and with the help of our esteemed board president and some support from Oaklawn Hospital, we're going to do a much more involved program. And we're actually able to print like 1,000, I think, is what we said. We're going to collect it. We are right now doing a survey for each senior. They're going to collect information from each graduate on accomplishments and email the parents and guardians that their students are filling out the information. Each graduate will be noted in the program with their accomplishments or affiliations listed after their name. So their name will be in bold print, and then there will be a list of the activities they've been involved in that they want to represent for themselves. And invariably, there's going to be some students that just won't want to do that. Some students might not have anything to put in front of their names. All of that's okay, because there are some that are going to want to have that representation. And I gave you an example of Rodney Backrash. Rodney's got cross-country 1, 2, 3, and 4, which means 4-year participant. Wrestling 1, 2, 3, and 4. Track and field 1 and 2. Student council 1, 2, 3. Spanish club 1 and 2. And senior class president. So that's the information we're going to have. And imagine the 209. Is it, Greg, 209? Yeah. 209 graduates are going to be listed, and you're going to be able to see every student graduating with what is their background experience that they want to represent for themselves as they walk across the stage. We're not reading it, but we're going to print it, and everybody's going to be able to have a program for a keepsake to take back with them. A lot of work to do, but the senior class advisors and administration are happy to be involved with this. The counselors are involved in this as well. I just wanted to make sure if there's no objections, we want to move forward with this as aggressively as we can. So any questions?
The one piece, on your example, the school is going to identify top honors, top 10, all the things that would normally be recognized.
Yes, and
the students aren't identifying those. Those are done by the office.
Yes. Yep. Yep. National Honor Society and high honors, highest honors, high honors, and honors. And all the advisors, like Laura, will be doing, vetting who the FFA completer is, so it's accurate. And she'll be responsible for ordering the cord and getting that in the hands of the student. Math Science Center has already been handled, so they'll have that already addressed. Link completers, the coordinator for Link will be able to do that. That is actually a course. Kids actually earn credits for being Link, and normally they stay for quite a long period of time, multiple years in Link, and they want to make sure that that's associated.
Andy, could you
yes.
just maybe quickly explain what Link is for those people who don't know what that is sitting out here?
Sure. Link is actually an official organization that works with students with autistically impaired students are associated with general ed students' peer sets, and those peers go one-to-one with them. They counsel them or support them socially. They interact with them all the time and advocate for them. They're involved in a lot of activities with them. And a lot of times we'll have AI graduates go through commencement, and we want to have them have a cord linking them to the peer from the senior class that's walking away with them as well. So it's a really great program. It's huge in our district. We have like, Greg, how many do you think we have that are Link? 30? And that's on average. I think there's been times where we've had upwards to 40 and so forth. So this is something that's near and dear to the hearts of a lot of our students at the high school. We want to make sure that that's connecting.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Can I get a head nod, an amen, a well? Well. We'll try not. What we're going to be trying to do is be as inclusive as we possibly can. So that Eagle Scout I introduced to you at the beginning of the year, mid-year, they can wear their Eagle Scout pin. It's got to be an official pin, though. Okay?
They can also decorate their cap like.
They can also
that was
decorate their
started last
mortarboard if that's what they want to do. But they can't, there's rules to that.
Right.
But I'm not going to get into all that policing. Okay?
Move on to E, establish a special session of the Board of Education. Special session is necessary to consider the biennial CISD Board of Education election, suggested date May 20th, 2019 at 6:45. So it's our second meeting in May, 15 minutes before our regular meeting, correct?
Yep. We just have to hold it, open it, do our support, close it, or ask questions or raise our issues.
I'm going to be out of town,
Yeah, okay.
as long as we have a quorum.
Everybody else is good for the 20th right now?
No, 15 minutes early? Okay, good.
As long as it's in Marshall. I have a hard time getting here early.
Pardon me?
That one is in Marshall.
That's in Marshall, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Okay. What's that?
This one is in Marshall?
In May?
Mine says-
Let's look here.
Okay.
What's the question?
Where the meeting is on the 20th. It's in Marshall.
Yeah.
It's just because of Memorial Day, so they're moved up, each are up, moved up a
Okay.
week.
Yep. Okay.
So it's May 6th.
And May 20.
May 20th.
Okay.
And then June goes back to.
Okay. We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Move on to action items, financial. This is where we removed C. And Randy, can you give us background on A and B?
Actually, I'll have Becky do that.
Okay.
There you go, Beck.
A is award bid for lawn mowing services. Board policy 6320 requires that any single item costing more than $5,000 be board approved. The board is being asked to consider awarding the lawn mowing services totaling in $41,607 as recommended by the facilities director. And then action item B, award bid for the replacement of 6 tennis courts at Marshall High School. Marshall Public High School is invited qualified tennis court construction firms to submit a proposal to remove 6 existing tennis courts and install 6 courts to replace them at the Marshall High School. Bid opening was held Thursday, April 18th at 3 p.m. in central office. 2 proposals were submitted. It is the facilities director, Brad Shedd's recommendation that Marshall Public Schools award the bid to Elite Construction for the replacement of 6 tennis courts. And then it is recommended, the recommendation of the superintendent that the action items financials be as approved as presented.
May I have a motion, please?
Move for approval of items A and B.
Support.
Support.
Thank you. Discussion.
On some of the bids for grass cutting, we're choosing much more expensive options, and my question is why? And is anyone here to answer that?
I can answer it. Let me look at,
Well,
what you're looking at.
like white collar, Walters, his bid was 2,700, and we're looking to give it to Cutting and Plowing for 4,600. Cutting and Plowing's, their
So-
bids were way higher than everybody else.
Yeah, so cutting and plowing, as you can see, is the only one that bid our high school. And they won't do the high school unless they have Walters as well. So our hands are kind of tied. So historically, cutting and plowing has done Walters in the high school. And then the 3 companies that do Hughes Gordon in the middle school, they've done that. And then White Collar started doing Albion all together last year. And so the same people that that are on this are the same people that we awarded to last year doing the same grounds. But yeah, that's just kind of where we're at. The companies pick and choose what they want to bid, as you can see. We didn't get a bid for every single building.
So that would make sense as to why they're lower.
Any other question? Did that answer it, Brent?
Yeah, it's frustrating that we can't get, that one guy bid everything, but he didn't bid the high school, and that looks like it's gonna cost us $5,000 to $7,000.
Yeah, the good thing about these quotes are is, it's $5,500 cheaper than what we paid last year. So
That was one of the questions. so
Yeah,
good, yeah.
so it is a little bit cheaper.
And with the number of, we have 8 facilities and a whole lot of acreage across 177 or 71 square miles. So some of these companies don't have the capacity to bid on the complete package, either the equipment or the human resource.
And it works, like, cutting and plowing has the capacity to do the whole district as a whole, but as you can see, look at their numbers in comparison to OHS and to White Collar. And White Collar did it last year, and they did a nice job, and so it just works better to split it up.
Are there expectations to mow like once a week or twice a week, or is it variable depending on?
I think they're mowing. Go ahead.
We figured it on 23 for the mowing season, so those are averages, but if it doesn't rain in July,
It might be 2.
they might only they won't just charge us $5,000 for this job. That's what, 23 times whatever the cost was. And then if they only do it 18 times, then they only get paid.
Okay, great.
And the tennis courts, I'm assuming those will be started right after the season's over and be ready before the fall season starts? Is that the plan?
Their guarantee was first of August.
Okay,
And the season starts on the 14th, I think, is the first day of practice.
okay.
It'll be ready to go on first of August.
A little small celebration here that we've gone 4 years trying to get this thing bid and put on the docket. So Becky and Brad, you guys did a great job. It's hard to find a company that's willing to bid now on these. I mean, this is probably one of the highest, if you have courts, it's the highest demand with the least amount of suppliers out there willing to do it.
There were different quotes for thickness. Were we going with the 1.5 inch, or were they going with the 2 inch? And what's the difference in how long those would last?
Both, well, actually, both offered different. Lead said we could do also a totally different than what, they could do the 1.5, 1.5. They could do 2 and 2. They didn't offer the same as McKerney offered. McKerney's, they didn't offer anything. They said that was what they could do, the 2 and the 1.5. From what I talked, they said 3 inches would be plenty beyond the court for, they're going to cut them all, which will help a great deal in the lifespan, which is something that hasn't been done before. They'll put stress relief and have rubber infill in these. So all the courts will be separated. There'll be lines right down through where the tennis nets are. So there's less places for cracks and things. But the going was at 3 inches would be adequate. We have a good base there. We did core samples last year, field core samples. Both countries thought that the ground was good.
And this comes after years of trying to fix the tennis courts because they get so, what do I want to say, the weather related.
Drainage, right?
Michigan is a friendly tennis court.
Yeah, okay.
How many times have we resurfaced, do you recall, last couple of years?
We did it earlier this year.
Yeah.
We've done it a few times, yeah.
They did some grind out last fall.
Right.
And we coated some stretching, but they get dead.
Yep.
Balls in and they bounce.
So we have 10 courts altogether, so the other 4,
Right, the other 4 are considerably younger.
okay,
Than the north 6.
okay,
And then they haven't been patched or anything yet. They're still in their
okay,
in good working condition.
okay. And will those be open during the,
We're trying to, that's what we've asked the companies, that we
Okay.
maintain those being open for like rec department.
okay. Because we'll want to make sure the community knows.
Probably not bulldozing the other side.
Right. Well, we'll probably just want to make sure that the community uses them a lot in the summertime, so we'll want to make sure we get word out of if they're all closed or what's going to happen as far as dates and things like that. Awesome, thank you.
It's not like posting something on our webpage or whatever, Facebook page, yep.
Any other questions on either item? Okay, we will start with Shauna.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Move on to action item other, approve resolution regarding the proposed Calhoun Intermediate School District General Fund budget. Can you give us some background, Randy, please?
Sure. As of July 1, 2004, state law requires an intermediate school district to have its proposed general fund operating budget reviewed annually by its constituent districts. The law requires that the budget be presented to the constituent districts and that by June 1, each constituent district adopt a board resolution expressing its support for or disapproval of the proposed budget. The Marshall Board was presented with the proposed CISD 2019-20 general fund budget operating budget at the February 25th, 2019 meeting. The board will now consider a resolution supporting the ISD's general fund operating budget It is the recommendation of the superintendent that action item other be approved as presented.
I have a motion, please.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion?
Support.
Larry? Larry, any discussion? Okay, we'll start with Brent.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Wanted to make sure. Okay, we'll move to public comments. Anybody can speak on any item and up to 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. Bob Dunklin, 707 Huntington Boulevard. I stand before you tonight as the president of the Albion branch at NAACP. And Mr. Bonner, thank you for showing the community the effort that the Marshall School are making in their school system. Each year, the NAACP has to do a report card on opportunity, diversity, and inclusion. So the rewards that was given tonight, I think, kind of demonstrate some of the things that's happening within the school system. And I want to commend you for your help in the way that you allowed the youth group to come forth in the school system itself, to give them space and give them a voice within the school system. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, board member comments for which no action may be taken at this meeting. Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.